Let's start the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, did everybody receive the October minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions on that?
None.
No.
All right, there was one that I communicated with Amy about was that's the reason for the amendment of the application should be included in the minutes. And that reason was that because the original application was asking for one variance and we're actually doing two. So should have been included in the minutes and so if without anything else, do I have somebody to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I don't think we should accept the minutes.
Anybody second?
I'll second them.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Okay, old business, the Eagles Nest subdivision, 437 Hankins Road, SBL 23-122.5. The matter is on today for a resolution to approve the subdivision. We have the resolution drafted by Mr. Klein. You want to do the honors, sir?
You want me to? Did everybody get a copy of it? Did you-
They just read it. We don't have paper copy. They just
Oh.
read it. Steve went through it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have brought some extra.
That's
paper.
okay. That's
Did you forward it to me by chance?
no, because I got it late, so.
Okay,
You know, I'll forward it to you guys in Word tomorrow.
that's okay. I
But
was
you're gonna
gonna
need
pull it
it.
up on the screen, but that's okay.
I printed mine out.
I can forward it to you now.
Neil, do you want me to read it?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I have to read it. Huh? Okay, the
You
following-
wrote it.
Yeah, so what's your point?
You wrote it.
The following resolution was offered by whoever is going to move it and seconded by, to wit, whereas Eagles Nest Estates LLC, the app, which is going to hereinafter be referred to as the applicant, made inquiry of the town Tustin code enforcement officer with respect to a proposed two-lot subdivision of the premises that are identified on the town of Tustin tax map as section 23, block 1, lot 22.2, which is going to be hereinafter referred to as the premises. Whereas the applicant was informed by the code enforcement officer that the planning board could not approve the proposed subdivision by reason of each of the proposed lots having road frontage of less than 300 feet as required by the zoning law of the town of Tustin, and it's going to be referred to as the zoning law hereinafter. Whereas the applicant made application to the town of Tustin zoning board of appeals, and that's going to be hereinafter the ZBA, for the granting of area variances, providing relief from the aforesaid front lot frontage requirement of the zoning law. And upon review of the proposed subdivision map at its meeting on June 13, 2022, the ZBA observed that a total of 4 variances would be required for the subdivision as proposed. Each proposed lot requiring 2 variances, one each with respect to the required minimum road frontage, and one each with respect to the required minimum lot width at the building setback line. And whereas, in the interest of reducing the amount of relief sought from the ZBA from 4 variances in total to 2 variances in total, the ZBA recommended to the applicant at the ZBA meeting on June 13, 2022, that the applicant reconfigure the proposed subdivision such that one of the 2 proposed lots fully comply with the required minimum lot frontage requirement and the minimum lot width at setback line requirement, and only one of the 2 proposed lots would require variances from the minimum lot frontage requirement and the minimum lot width at building setback line requirement. And whereas at the ZBA's meeting on July 11, 2022, the applicant presented a revised proposed subdivision map, which relocated the position of the boundary line dividing the premises into 2 lots, one of which conformed with the required 300-foot lot frontage and required 300-foot lot width at setback, and the other of which did not conform with either of such requirements and instead sought area variances with respect thereto, reducing the 300-foot lot frontage by 33.29 feet and reducing the required 300-foot lot width at building setback by 52.53 feet. And whereas following review of the proposed subdivision map, the ZBA at its July 11 meeting undertook to complete a State Environmental Quality Review Act review of the application, contemplating not just the requested variances, but also the entirety of the proposed subdivision of the premises. And in furtherance thereof, the ZBA reviewed part 1 of a short environmental assessment form, SEAF, submitted by the applicant, following which the ZBA completed part 2 and part 3 of the SEAF, and determined that the requested variances and the proposed subdivision of the premises will not result in any substantial adverse environmental impacts, and approved the issuance of a negative declaration. And whereas the ZBA held a duly advertised, properly noticed public hearing on August 8, 2022, at which the ZBA received the comments of all interested parties appearing thereat or submitting written communications or commentary. And whereas the ZBA held a meeting on August 8, 2022, following the aforesaid public hearing, at which the applicant appeared and further discussed the application with the ZBA. And whereas the ZBA 1 noted that the Upper Delaware Council had determined the application to be in substantial conformance with the river management plan. 2, determined to refer the application to the Town of Tustin Planning Board for its recommendation with respect to the requested variances. And 3, requested that the applicant obtain and submit additional information and documentation to the ZBA, including A, information with respect to the proximity of the building site on the proposed subdivision lots to an eagle's nest asserted during the public hearing to be near the premises. B, the location of the flood zone with respect to the premises. C, verification of the slope of the proposed subdivision lots. And D, information regarding the presence of rattlesnakes and or dens upon the premises. And whereas the ZBA held a meeting on September 12, 2022, at which it took up further consideration of the applicant's requested variances and received A, the county planning agency's general municipal law 239L, M, and N, advising that the application is a matter for local determination after also referring it to the Wayne County, Pennsylvania Planning Department, which had no comments. B, documentation that there are no rattlesnake dens on the premises. C, a revised subdivision map establishing the distance of the premises and the proposed building locations from a reported eagle's nest. And D, the unanimous recommendation of the planning board that the variance be approved, including an analysis of the road frontages and lot widths of existing lots in the neighborhood in which the premises are located. And E, correspondence from council for owners and residents near the premises in opposition to the requested variances. Following which the ZBA discussed the application and came to no conclusion and tabled the matter to the ZBA's next meeting on October 10, 2022. And whereas the ZBA held a meeting on October 10, 2022, at which acknowledged that all members of the ZBA received additional correspondence from council for owners and residents near the premises in opposition to the requested variances, and then took up further consideration of the applicant's requested variances, analyzing the requested variances in the context of the criteria governing the granting thereof by New York State law and the zoning law, considered the lack of possibilities of alternatives to the variance requested, and considered the conditions prevailing in the neighborhood. And whereas the town has not presented any evidence that denying the requested variance would serve public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas the members of the ZBA are personally familiar with the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood and have observed the same. And whereas the ZBA has given thorough and complete consideration to the foregoing matters and the general purpose and intent of the zoning law and the master plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the ZBA hereby makes the following findings and determinations. 1, in considering the benefit to the applicant if the variances are granted, which benefits are obvious, as weighed against the detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, the ZBA finds as follows. A, an undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor will a detriment to nearby properties be created by the granting of the requested variances. As memorialized in the recommendation made by the planning board to the ZBA in favor of granting the requested variances, the neighborhood is comprised of as many as 30 lots having less than 300 feet of frontage, with the smallest having only 45 feet of frontage. The width of those lots do not increase significantly, if at all, at the building setback line. Furthermore, the premises, without being subdivided, has 2 existing residential structures, and after subdivision, will have no more than 2 residences. The subdivision of the premises into 2 lots will not result in an increase in the number of residential structures in the neighborhood beyond what already exists and what theoretically exists in the future. B, it does not appear that the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by another method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than by the requested variances. There is no additional land available to the applicant to acquire from adjoining parcels, which are in different ownership, to increase the width of either of the proposed lots so that both lots may conform with the 300-foot minimum requirements. C, the variances sought are not substantial. Lot frontage and setback with reductions from 300 feet to 286.71 feet and 247.47 feet respectively are not substantial under the circumstances that exist in this situation, particularly given the lot widths of as many as 30 parcels in the neighborhood are substantially less than proposed by the applicant. Under such circumstances, in the ZBA's view, the reduction sought is not excessive and will not result in any health, safety, or welfare issues, and clearly gives rise to no adverse impacts whatsoever to any adjoining property. D, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the district. The above findings with respect to absence of an undesirable change in the character of the community, lack of substantiality, and issuance of the ZBA of a negative declaration following the requisite State Environmental Quality Review Act review support this conclusion. E, the alleged difficulty does appear to be self-created, given that the premises existed in its current configuration prior to acquisition of the premises by the applicant at a time when the existing lot frontage and lot width at setback requirements were in place. However, neither New York state law nor the zoning law requires such circumstance to be determinative, and the ZBA, in the exercise of its discretion and in consideration of the fact that all of the other criteria required to be considered mitigate in favor of granting the requested variance, concludes that such self-created hardship should not be determinative in this instance. And be it further resolved that the application of Eagles Nest Estates LLC be and the same hereby is granted, such that 1, an area variance reducing the lot frontage of lot 2B on the proposed subdivision map of the premises that are identified on the town of custom tax map in section 23, block 1, lot 22.2, from 300 feet to 266.71 feet is hereby granted. And 2, an area variance reducing the lot width at setback of lot 2B on the proposed subdivision map of the premises that are identified on the town of custom tax map of section 23, block 1, lot 22.2, from 300 feet to 247.47 feet is hereby granted. And be it further resolved that as conditions of the approval of the aforesaid variances, the existing cabin on lot 2B on the proposed subdivision map of the premises that are identified on the town of Tustin tax map in section 23, block 1, lot 22.2 must be removed therefrom, and any structure erected thereon in the future shall be located outside of the bald eagle buffer zone as depicted on the proposed subdivision map, and otherwise located in compliance with applicable front, side, and rear setback requirements. And 2, use and occupancy of the premises, inclusive of proposed lot 2A and lot 2B, must comply with all applicable standards and requirements of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation with respect to bald eagle and rattlesnake habitats. And that would then be put to vote if someone chooses to make a motion and second that.
Anybody want to make a motion to accept the resolution?
I would like to just offer something that I noticed that is kind of misleading information in the resolution, and it's on page 5, actually sprinkled throughout. But it says that under 1A, the neighborhood is comprised of as many as 30 lots having less than 300 feet of frontage, with the smallest having only 45 of frontage. That's not quite an accurate picture of that neighborhood.
Well, that's exactly what was said in the report from the planning board.
I know, but that 45-foot setback or 45-foot frontage is actually a corner of a lot that primarily, its bulk is primarily on the other side of the road to the river. So it's a false statement that that lot only has 45 feet of road frontage. If you look at a large map, the lot if this is the lot, here's the road, and this 45 feet is attached to this part of,
So what other part of that lot has road frontage besides that 45 feet?
the parcel on the other side of the road, which is a part of that parcel.
So then it would be even more road frontage, wouldn't it?
Okay, so if that's your point, Stephen, then we wasted our whole time for the last 6 months banding this about because you should have added the road frontage on the other side of both of their parcels. And they had well more than 300 feet then.
And
If that's what your point is, they don't need a variance. Think about it, what you're saying, because these two parcels, that this one parcel that he's got, that he's now dividing in two, is divided the same way. There's road frontage on both sides of the property. So what you're saying is he doesn't need a variance because he's got almost 300
no,
on each.
that is not what
on
I'm
the west
saying.
side
I'm
of the
saying that
road.
this is inaccurate information.
Well,
That's all.
it's
It's entirely consistent with.
not really, Steve,
with
because whether, depending on which side of the road you look on, that 45 feet exists.
Yes, it does.
So he's not really saying something that does not exist.
But it is being depicted as a separate lot in that description, and it's not a separate lot. It is joined with the bulk of the lot across the road.
So what are you proposing here that,
I propose that we have an understanding that that 45-foot road frontage is not a separate lot in and of itself. It's not a 45-foot.
I don't think it has any bearing.
But then you have to make the same recognition that the lots that are in question in this application are not then a 300-foot front lot and a 200 and whatever it is front lot. They're actually probably closer to 600-foot lots because there's just as much frontage on the other side of the road as there is on this side of the road.
You're missing my point. So,
Well, I think you're missing my.
I don't think he is, Steve.
I understand your point, but your point, for your point to follow, then the same rationale has to apply to the lots in question that are the subject matter of this application. Look at the road frontage across the street on each of his two lots, or his two proposed lots.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you take that into under your rationale? It's a false statement to say that there's only 300 feet and 200 and whatever feet it is on this one. 200 and right, 266.71 feet. It's actually much more than that because you should be taking into account the frontage on the other side of the street.
no. I just.
Same
this-
misnomer.
This conflates,
If that's a misnomer, then these folks shouldn't even be here for a variance.
well, that's not my issue with it. If we are taking planning board recommendations based on a misstatement that there's a lot that's only 45 feet of road frontage, we shouldn't be having that in our resolution.
Well, that's assuming that you're I don't hear anybody else saying it's a misstatement. I don't perceive it to be a
Yeah,
misstatement.
I'm
I don't know if anybody else. here
often the
perceives
odd guy out, so,
Yeah.
you know, that's fine. I look at things through different lens. So,
But if you're saying that there's a lot that has only 45 foot of road frontage, then and it's being misrepresented, then whoever did the tax maps has it wrong, not
no, if you
not
look at
us or the
the,
planning.
if you look at the tax maps, you will see that there's a rectangular parcel, and part of that rectangle is on the other side of the road. And it all comes down to surveyors like to just determine their bulk by straight lines. And it's much more difficult for them to determine the bulk if they have to follow the curvature of the road. So they just chose to make it a rectangle. But it's not a standalone lot with only 45 feet of road frontage.
these are not, then this is not a standalone lot with only 300 and 200 and whatever I said of road frontage. You've got to double up the road frontage essentially. So you've got one lot that's got 600 feet of road frontage almost, and you got another lot that's got 580 feet of road frontage.
I'm not following your example there, Ken.
Well,
You're,
then you're not following what, I don't know what then I don't know where you're getting at, Steve. The lot you're complaining about has the same exact scenario and circumstances as the lot that the applicant is here asking to be subdivided. The lot is bisected by the road with part of the lot on each side of the road.
yeah,
So under your rationale, you're saying there's 45 feet of road frontage on this side of the road, but there's more road frontage on that side of the road. So you're saying that's inaccurate. So then this is all inaccurate. He's got 600 feet on one side of it, and he's got 570 feet on the other side. On the other
no,
parts.
that is not what I'm saying. And for the purpose of moving on, let's just move on.
Does anybody want to make a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll move to approve the resolution as read by Mr. Klein.
Anybody second? I'll second it. Yeah,
And I'll do.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
No,
okay, the ayes have it, the resolution is approved. Now, moving on to new business, there is none, and I forgot to interject before that there was no new correspondence this month, so. Does the board have any comment? No, so with that, I'll make a motion to close the meeting. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, so.
I'm sorry, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the meeting, the motion is approved, the meeting is closed.